Hey everybody, John from Slash Bash coming at you with another Choosing Beggar Reddit video. When a fence is damaged by a storm, a choosing beggar tries to take every advantage, including trying to steal my land. Let's jump right in. Bob and I share a privacy fence, and 2 years ago we had a windstorm blow it down. Typically, there are no rules for who is responsible for repair, but since I had originally paid for the fence, it was mine, and I did not mind repairing it, well, until Bob got involved. I decided to replace the whole thing. It was old and dark brown, and did not have a lot of life left in it anyways. But before I can get started, Bob is at my house wanting to know when we are going to fix his fence. I politely remind him the fence belongs to me, and that I will fix it when I get around to it. This is not good enough for Bob because of Bob's dog. For some reason he thinks I am responsible for his dog having a fence, and this should constitute an emergency on my part. We go back and forth about the urgency of the matter, and he finally agrees to help me rebuild my fence, but I still have to pay for all the materials. First, I demolish the old fence. By myself, without any help from Bob. He conveniently disappears the first weekend we agreed to start the project. He literally shows up as I am stacking the last of the old fence by the street for curbside pickup. We get bulky item pickup in my area twice a year, and I got lucky with the timing and could leave it neatly stacked by the street. Bob sees the stack of wood, and I can see the gears in his head turning. Bob takes a picture and advertises it on Craigslist. Then without asking me, he starts moving it all to his yard. This guy spends 2 weeks trying to sell a pile of old fence pickets and misses the bulky item pickup day. Then he finally gives up and decides to drag it all back to the curb in front of my house. We had words about this, and it was a bit heated at times. My position on the issue was, you wanted the wood, now it's your problem, not mine. We went back and forth a while, and he begrudgingly stacked the wood right on the property line between our houses. The very next day, 2 Mexicans in a truck show up, decide they want the wood, and start loading it up in their truck. Bob sees this, runs out front, and starts yelling at them. It is his wood, and it's not free. They just threw the few pieces they had in the truck on the ground and drove off. Bob can't stand that someone would get something for free, and no matter how much I try to convince him to just let it go, he won't. So I prod him a little and tell him they will just come back when he's at work and take it anyway. My intent being for him to drag it all back into his yard. So, what does Bob do? He gets a saw and cuts all the pickets in half and leaves a giant pile of cut pickets in his yard at the curb. Rather than let them take it for free, he ruins it for them. That pile of wood sat there for weeks before the city cited him and made him clean it up. More on that later. Back to the fence. While replacing the posts, Bob starts questioning where the real property line is. I'm pretty good with where the old fence was, but he is convinced the line is too far on his property and wants to move it towards my house. I checked the survey, and the original fence looked like it was built about 6 to 12 inches inside my property, and I suspect he wants to move it another foot over, so it's easier for him to get his boat into his backyard. Or maybe he is just being Bob and wants something more. The easy way in my mind to settle this is to find the pins and pull a line between them. Bob gets a blank-eating grin on his face and says, "That is a great idea," and alarm bells go off in my head. After a little work, I find the pins, and not only was the fence on his property, it was a foot on his property. This is not right. It is not matching the survey that came when I bought the house, and I am sure I measured it right the first time. Out of self-defense, I hire a surveyor for $400 to come out and verify the property line. When the surveyor comes out, Bob blows a gasket and tries to refuse the guy access to his property and tries to harass the surveyor while he is doing the survey. None of this even fazed the surveyor. He acted like this happens all the time, and maybe even paid closer attention. given how hostile Bob was acting. It turns out for good reason, too. Bob had moved the pins. The fence was not 1 foot on my side, it was 2 feet on my side. Bob had moved the pins. His shed was a solid 1 foot on my property, and given the new lines, it did not look like he would be able to get his boat in and out of his own yard now. The new fence he was insisting I fix, he starts talking about how maybe we could just put it back where it was and how he was willing to help and how good fences make good neighbors. It was not good enough that I pay for the repairs and do all the work. He wanted to screw me over the property line too. It's never enough for him. Over the next few weeks, I notified him of the shed encroaching on my property and made him move it. Then I built that fence right on the line and foolishly believed it was over. My insurance company sends me a letter about a claim on the damaged fence. He had filed a claim for the fence on his insurance, then his insurance contacted mine to settle between the two. My fence, the fence I paid for and built, he is making a claim for it. I told him the whole story and sent copies of the receipts. A couple weeks later, I come home from work and all the old fence pickets are in my yard. Bob tells me since it's my fence, then the trash from the old one is mine too. I guess the insurance company denied his claim. During this time, Bob got a citation for the trash in his yard. When code enforcement came back out to inspect again, they knocked on my door and I told them the whole story. The guy was really nice and just walked back over to talk to Bob. I don't know what he said, but Bob hauled the wood off to the dump the next day. We don't talk about the fence anymore, and now his ugly boat is in the side yard where he parks his boat right on the property line. I paid for the fence and survey, and while I picked up a little extra yard, it did not have to be that way, and all of this so Bob can have a fence for his dog. He is still pissed and will tell anyone who will listen how I stole a foot of his yard and how I made him move his fence. I paid for the fence both times. The survey did all the work and somehow stole part of his yard. Honestly, I would have been happy to put it all back where it was if I did not have to look at his boat anymore, but he was being such a douche over it. I felt like letting him win would hurt more. Have you ever had a neighbor who constantly tried to scam you? If so, leave a comment to let me know about it. Pay up $1,500 for misspelling of my name. I work for a popular computer company as a technical support supervisor. My work revolves around administrative duties of my team, like coaching and managerial responsibilities. One time, one of my agents, Mike, not his real name, informed me that his customer was requesting for a supervisor, as the customer is irate already during the conversation. Asked Mike what happened with the customer and the reason why she is upset, and he told me that her cursor is not working even when using both a touchpad and an external mouse. The customer requested a supervisor as she did not trust an agent can fix her issue. This is normal for me and I took over the call. I fixed her issue by guiding her to the steps that she needs to do, and she confirmed that the issue was resolved. She was thankful in the end and was happy that we fixed the issue with the cursor. It felt like there were no signs that she was upset in the first place. After the call, I instructed Mike to send an email to the customer for documentation purposes, and then we will be closing her ticket. The next day, we received a reply from the same customer that we have spelled her name wrong. Mike apologized via email and went ahead to correct the spelling of her name on our database. The customer then replied immediately and requested that we should pay her $1,500 for spelling her name wrong on the email, and another $1,000 for the damages done to her computer. I told Mike to ignore her email as we will be escalating the case to a higher department. I have no idea what happened after that, but I am pretty sure that her request was denied, as there were no other things that we could do. There may be an error on our part with the misspelling of her name, but I am glad that we don't need to talk to her further. Some people will try anything. This has been John from Slash Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to see more of them, then please hit the subscribe button. We'd love for you to drop a like and share it with your friends, and we will see you in the next one.